Shout out, yeah. If you want the country to prosper and you want to work for a dollar, your children destiny. Vote that key. A better standard of living. Mind, body, and soul improving.
A very pleasant good night to first the people of West St. George, those of you who are listening, those of you who are viewing via Facebook, and in particular, generally the people across the world, because I am seeing a number of people are following tonight's meeting. Let me recognize my seniors, since I am the junior here. I didn't believe that there will come a day when Brother Sinclair Leacock and myself will be in the same room, probably on similar platform, and working together doing what is good for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The reason I say this is because when I was a little boy up in Daphne, this big man at the time, Sinclair Leacock, president of the Football Federation, came to Daphne playing field to deliver the president's address at the opening of our football league, the first time we had a football tournament in Daphne. So Brother Sinclair Leacock has been working tirelessly throughout my life, I should say. He's older than me. I want to also recognize the previous speakers, Brother Glenford Strout and Douglas De Freitas. I do appreciate the fact that we can share the same platform for the benefit of the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Most importantly, the candidate that I am here to support, and I am calling on the people of West St. George to give their fullest support, Sister Kay Bacchus Baptiste. I want you to listen carefully what I'm going to say tonight. I wouldn't be that long, but I'm going to focus entirely on the constituency of West St. George. Tomorrow night, I will be on Nice Radio from 6:30 to 8 o'clock, and I will deal with more national and general issues. So you could follow both via Facebook and follow Nice Radio for my general outlook in terms of what's happening in the country. But tonight, it is Mama Corner's night. Remember, this meeting was supposed to be taking place at Mama's Corner. That is up in the Fairburn, Belmont area, bordering the East St. George and West St. George constituency. And I was looking forward to be up at Mama's Corner, but after I saw the weather and the condition outside, I say, I am certain the NDP is not going to be that reckless to go and call out people to come out to a public meeting and put their lives at risk when you consider the possibility of landslides that could take place all over this country. We as persons in leadership can take the risk, but we should not engage in calling all people from all over this country or from the entire West St. George to come to Mama's Corner. So that's why we are here doing this virtual meeting as a responsible party. We thought it necessary to make the adjustment, and this is what you expect of leaders, people who could respond based on the condition on the ground. And the condition is bad, and the party responded, and that's why we are here. And I am certain we are reaching far more people than we would have reached if we stood up in Mama's Corner tonight. I know almost everyone these days have a cell phone. Many of them have access to the internet, and they can follow this live stream as well as Nice Radio. Is well known and well reached throughout this country. So I want to say good night to all of you who are listening to me here on Nice Radio. I decided to come here for the second time on this platform for another West St. George meeting, just to remind the people who have supported the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Labour Party, no, the Unity Labour Party. They are not about St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They have changed. A lot of people are getting fooled thinking that this is a Labour Party. It is not. But in 1998, the people of West St. George, with my advice at that time, decided to give their support to Mike Brown as the candidate, eventually becoming the representative for the people of West St. George. In that election, and in fact, it's the only time West St. George has given support to someone who ended up in opposition. But as I said earlier, as I said before, the 1998 election, the ULP got the majority of the votes in the country. So generally speaking, West St. George is always on the winning team or with the majority of the people. I must say, in passing, that Mike Brown did absolutely nothing for the people of West St. George. And the people and the Unity Labour Party leadership, after recognizing that Mike Brown really did nothing, in fact, I could tell you just one thing he did. Just the last year before he was removed as the candidate for West St. George, he extended the Belair Cemetery. He got an extra piece of land above the existing cemetery and extended it. Well, I could understand why Sess took over, because with Sess and Luke, we have seen the death that is taking place with the dengue. But it's not just the dengue, the stress and the frustration of the people. I don't know how many of you pay attention to death announcements. We are experiencing the largest number of deaths in this country. These days, you can't stop listening to death announcement. So it's not just the dengue that is destroying our people. It is the poor leadership of this administration. So I come to the decision the Unity Labour Party took to bring Sess Mackey. They brought Sess Mackey because they discovered that Mike Brown would have lost the 2010 elections. So they brought Sess Mackey. And a lot of people, certainly not me, a lot of people decided they will give him the chance. Our people really, could go to the lowest, but they decided they will go with Sess. Well, I think the only person who benefited from Sess Mackey's representation is Sess Mackey himself, because he got some reward when he left St. Hill Insurances to come to run, and then he now concluding 10 years, 9.5 years, and he qualified for a pension. But what West St. George have to show for Sess? Nothing. Just the mess that many people talk about. In the last year or so, the ULP did their studies, they did their surveys, and they realized Sess was not going to win the election in West St. George. The polls were showing clearly that the people were not supportive of him. That is the Unity Labour Party supporters. They were fed up and they were prepared to get rid of him. But the Prime Minister decided he was going to look for an alternative so that he could fool the people. You fool us with Mike Brown, that's once. You fool us with Sess Mackey, that's twice. You really think the people could put up to being fooled for a third time? It's not going to happen. And I could tell you why it is not going to happen. Because I am from there. The Prime Minister, Julian Francis, and Camilo, they tried to gather some people together to see who they could put to run in the constituency. They tried, I wouldn't call names, they tried about 3 persons. And then they finally got the supporters, the leadership from West St. George Constituency Council to push the name of Curtis King, my second cousin. They pushed Curtis King's name. I know from talking to people that the Prime Minister did not want Curtis King. I know for a fact they were not happy with Curtis King for many things. In fact, he suffered under this Unity Labour Party administration. As a friend, I could tell you, he suffered under this administration. So they were not really enthused to go with him. But a lot of the Unity Labour Party supporters decided that, look, if you don't go with Curtis King, we are not going to get involved in any campaign. And they eventually decided they will go with Curtis King. I know that they have no regard for him, and they are not going to give him any encouragement. In fact, I don't know if any of you realize, there has not been a single political village meeting for Curtis King in West St. George to this day. What is happening down at the airport is a national meeting. It's not a West St. George meeting. And so they are not giving him the support. So I am speaking directly to those people who are considering to allow themselves to be fooled by supporting Curtis King. One, he's not going to win. Clearly, the majority of the people of this country, as I mentioned before, are moving in the direction of the NDP. So the NDP is going to win the elections regardless. And historically speaking, West St. George is going to be on the side of the winning team. The fact is right there. So Curtis is not going to be successful, and I could tell you why. I have spoken with a number of people from the Dorsetshire community. In fact, let me let you know, there are 3 main areas of support in West St. George that normally go to the Unity Labour Party. It is Dorsetshire Hill, it is the Fountain area, that Fountain Top Annisvale area, and it is the Top Gome area. Those are the 3 main areas that the ULP expect to get their support. Well, let me start with Dorsetshire Hill. Dorsetshire Hill is an area, no, I missed one. There's a 4th. As part of the Belmont area, the Top Belmont area. But let me address Dorsetshire Hill. Dorsetshire Hill is an area where people, a lot of them come from a Scottish background. They are very much into business. They are self-reliant. They don't really look for jobs anyway. They work and they develop themselves. They have a lot of pride. And they don't really rely on government for much. In fact, when I talk to the people in Dorsetshire, they say, Bacchus, all we want to pay is a road, a proper road. And we voted like voting instruments. Those are their words, not mine. They say we voted like voted instruments. They didn't want to embarrass cattle because they are very much into farming. And they got nothing. They got nothing in return for all those elections Dorsetshire Hill supported. In fact, all they got is worse roads, no improvement to the playing field that we all know that the people normally enjoy their little sports, and there is no proper market for the agricultural produce. Their businesses are struggling, as every business is struggling in this country. So Dorsetshire Hill have nothing to show for the support. You go to the Fountain area, well, generally speaking, they don't do nothing for Fountain. They don't do anything for that Fountain area. There is nothing that the government could point to in the Fountain and Belmont block that they can say because of our vote for the Unity Labour Party, we can show for it. The only thing maybe one or two people could show maybe is a little bit of lumber, the usual thing that they give out at the election time. You go to the other area where they get a little support, which is down in, well, we have Fountain, we have Belmont, we have Dorsetshire Hill. The last one I mentioned, Top Gome. Top Gome is in a state. The Gome is sitting on a hill, because we say Top Gome. A lot of the houses are at risk for serious land slippage. The road is on the peak of the hill, and a lot of those houses are under threat by this very rain that is here today. There is really nothing that they have done for the people up at Top Gome. Nothing. They're generally into agriculture, they do their little business, and that's all. So they get nothing from this administration. So I cannot understand how the older folks in the area will hold on to a Unity Labour Party administration. I could tell you, having spoken to a number of the younger folks in the Top Gome area, they have told me like this: Bacchus, I talked to my mother and father, and in my conversation with them, I say, when the NDP was in office, you all were doing so much better. I was growing up at that time, the persons I talked to in their 30s. So they say when NDP was in office, they were doing so much better. They are struggling today, and you think me as a 30, 31, 36-year-old will turn around and vote because they are my mother and my father? I have a brain of my own. I have to think for myself. And I am seeing the people going into community college, coming out, sitting down on the block, doing nothing. I need to see a change. And that is why the young people in and around the constituency are making the change. Those of you who want to hold on to nothing will just get nothing. But of course, you will get something, don't worry. You will get a new government. You will get a better representative than you have received for the last the last 5 terms that we had in this area. I come to the candidate that are being offered by the New Democratic Party. Bacchus Baptiste is out of West St. George. So some people telling me where she come from. Her father, Crichton Bacchus, from Queens Drive, was the man who actually started the Queens Drive Neighborhood Watch and have looked out for the people of Queens Drive. That is where she is from. She is from right here in West St. George. And let me speak as if I'm in West St. George. She's from right here in West St. George. So she is not somebody who just shipped in and just come in to say she's seeking representation. In fact, it is about 2 years ago when I don't know who approached her and asked her if she will consider running in West St. George. She called me and she asked me, do you think I should take the opportunity to come forward and run for West St. George? I took a little time. I said, let me study this thing, let me analyze it. And I gave her the positive response a week or 2 after. I say, come and represent us. Because I know she put out her all in the defense of people. Some people feel that all they know about Bacchus Baptiste is a lawyer who fights for her clients. And even if that was all, That is good enough for us to have somebody who's a fighter to represent us. Because if she was really our representative in a Unity Labour Party administration, Dr. Gonsalves couldn't get away with what he's getting away with. She would have been fighting him for the people of West St. George, but Seth Mackey and Mike Brown couldn't stand up. And I am telling you that if by some miracle they were to win, and Curtis King ever like I haven't bring it out. Seriously, if he was ever going to be the representative, he would have been ashamed of himself, because the way this administration, the ULP administration, would treat him. Some friends tell me that Gonsalves would treat Curtis like Jomo. I say no. It will be worse. It will be worse. But Curtis might very well sell his soul. I hope that not. Well, I hope he wouldn't get the chance to do that, because Kay would relieve him of having to do that. So, the question of Kay Bacchus Baptiste, the fighter, the lawyer, is somebody who we need. I mean, West St. George is in dire need of representation. So Kay has background in the arts, in karate, in human rights, as the head of the Bar Association. She has served in a number of voluntary organizations all her life, coming right through to this day. I saw an Eyewitness News article by Mr. Tony talking about Dr. Gonsalves and his service to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Absolutely nothing he have done to voluntarily give support to the people of this country. And that is what counts. You should not want to represent unless you have an experience of service. He had no experience of service, but when he finishes university, he come out and he get himself involved in politics, and he undermine party after party to get to the to the top of those parties. From the UPM to the MNU to the Labour Party, and get to the peak. Well, I could even call names. Even undermine Sir Vincent and Ken Boy and others to get to be the leader. When I come into Dr. Gonsalves for a moment, when he decided to run, I was a supporter of him. I was on the radio promoting him. He told us he wanted 2 terms. 2 terms, and that's good enough. He will transform St. Vincent in 2 terms. He actually got 2 terms. The other 2, where they're talking the 3rd and 4th, they stole those. But I couldn't believe that at this stage in his life, with a sick son, a sick wife, and himself not so well, would really neglect, I don't know if it's neglect, but will not give consideration to the well-being of his family, and to force himself for a 5th term to run this country. I mean, it is for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to tell him enough is enough. Give him the opportunity to go home and rest and take care of his immediate family concerns. So I am saying to you, and I was listening to the presentation. I'm jumping to a number of things because my time is up. I was listening to Dr. Friday. Dr. Friday was answering some questions at the community college. Excellent. And that's why I couldn't help but reference it here. When he started his presentation, I started to get annoyed of Dr. Friday. I started by saying, but why Dr. Friday from the onset ain't tell these students it is NDP who built this, who set out this community college? and who bring this to what it is today. So I was a little bit annoyed at the beginning. But by the time he get to the end of his speech, I saw in Dr. Friday what maybe a lot of people have never seen. This is a man who genuinely concerned about the people and the welfare of the people of this country. And you know how I judge that? Because he never for once in his presentation give any take any credit or give the NDP party any credit for the buildings or the projects that they undertook and delivered in their time. All he was focusing on was the welfare of people, our lives. And I said to myself, he is genuinely committed to people. He's not about big buildings and so on. Otherwise, from the onset, he would have mentioned that is the NDP built this community college. He didn't do that. The second point I want to make in relation to his presentation was when a gentleman, a young man, a student, raised a question to him. And that student raised the question, I may not put it in the exact words, but he said, don't you think it is wise for the young people to consider the importance of experience in this election? The experience, meaning that the experience of Dr. Gonsalves would be more valuable at this stage than you who come in without any previous experience in government. And I was listening to Dr. Friday attentively. And if it was me, I might have challenged that young man. I would have said to that young man that you are in college. You, when you leave college, certainly would want the opportunity to get a job. You may come up against somebody with experience. You may have to, and with your qualifications, your ability, do you think that you should be left out and give to the person with experience? That might have been my response, because I would have wanted to make the young person feel embarrassed to ask such a question. Because you have to give people a chance with fresh ideas. That's why so many young people are supporting the NDP today. Because Dr. Gonsalves, Dr. Friday, and the others in the leadership of the NDP are giving the young people a chance. That's why the young people are so much with them. So that would have been my way. But Dr. Gonsalves humbly responded to that. Dr. Friday, humbly, I can't put humble and Gonsalves in the same sentence, sorry. That cannot happen. Dr. Friday genuinely responded to the young man, and I am certain if he is listening this tonight, he will reflect. But he gave him the perfect answer, genuinely supporting and encouraging him, and referring him to the outstanding experience and knowledge he has gained over time. And the last thing I want to reference is when an old boy student decided to ask a question. My good friend Cecil Ryan. If I was in that audience and Dr. Gonsalves was the person presenting and I only stood up and asked a question, I would have been humiliated, threatened, and embarrassed by him. But Dr. Friday decided we'll take the question. The question was on the philosophy of the party. He took the question, he responded, he outlined clearly the philosophy of the party. He took a long time giving a fulsome answer without making any reference to the person asking the question, whether or not he was out of place or not. He answered that question, and I saw in Dr. Friday a real servant, a servant-minded person who are willing to serve. And that's why I am encouraging the people of this country. Let us make the change. over the years you have voted, those of you might have voted the Unity Labour Party. You expected certain things from them. And they did not deliver. They did not even come and apologize. You know what? Let me just make this quick point. I refuse to read the ULP 104 pages manifesto. It makes absolutely no sense. Because I have in my bag here the 2015 manifesto. And nothing that they promised in that manifesto was implemented over the last 4.5 years. Nothing they promised. So how could you bring a manifesto now to promise the same things? Because by and large, it's the tunnel on the Cane Garden, a new hospital in the Annisvale area. It's Cross Country Road. Well, that was supposed to be one of them. The cultural, the performing arts center. Nothing promised or delivered. So this election, to me, is a very important one for persons to consider. It is not about the ULP and their promises. It is about the ULP and their performance over the last 5 years. And if you go by their performance in the last 5 years, they have failed. So go out, support the NDP in this election. Decide your mind. There are some of you who will have to support the ULP because they are on boards, they have something to lose, right? I am not talking about the public servants who are supportive. Some of you have your right as a citizen to give your support. But I know for a fact, just by watching and hearing Dr. Friday, he is not going to be a person with any vengeance coming to get rid of people from their jobs. So don't worry. So even if you are out there jumping up, supporting publicly the Unity Labour Party, quietly on polling day, go in the polling booth and reflect clearly and say, this vote is not about me. This vote is about my country. And put your X towards the key and support any candidate for the New Democratic Party to form the next government. The candidates and the members of the party have outlined a lot of plans. So I don't need to do that. They have done enough. But I am certain, finally, I am certain when the final count on the night of my birthday, November the 5th, when the final count is done, Bacchus Baptiste will be the new representative, the second woman to represent West St. George, the second person who really, well, let me don't go to all of that. Bacchus Baptiste will be our representative, and we will be proud she is going to get the support across the constituency. And for the next 4 days, a lot of Unity Labour Party people are going to turn around. They are going to turn because they see the writing on the wall. They have been calling me. Tonight before I get here, is one of my old ULP campaigners called me. He said, Bacchus, I'm with you. I say, I'm so proud of you. He said, you just go forward and we are there with you. I can't do too much publicly because, you know, this government is a government of spite and they may want to spite my family. They might want to spite this and that. So you don't worry. There's a groundswell. People of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, there's a groundswell of support. Vinette, I could tell you there is a large swing, a big swing away from the Unity Labour Party. I'm not going to predict how many seats, but I am just going to say, among the number of seats, mark my word, West St. George will be among them. Thank you very much.